The moment of creation starts the story of the Bible. In Genesis 1 and 2, we see God craft an orderly world teeming with life. At the heart of that world, God places humans. Humans are God's image bearers, given responsibility to tend this world and govern it. Humans are like God, but also like the animals in certain ways. They're to multiply and fill the world. We read it in Genesis 1:31, God saw all that he had made, and it was very good. There was evening and there was morning, the sixth day. Given a divine calling, the humans are placed in a garden to cultivate it. It's a wonderful world they're given, and they have a calling and a command. They're to till the garden, but are not to do one thing, to eat of a forbidden tree. And of course, we all know how that story ends. Tempted by one of the animals, the serpent, humans forget their position of given lordship and sink into sin. Relationship with God, each other, and creation is damaged. Because the story is brief in the Bible, our imagining the scene is also often compressed. Humans are created, charged, tempted, and cast out all in a very short space. By the end of those 3 short chapters, the first act of our story is finished. The gates of Eden are closed, and life in a fallen world begins. And we still live in this fallen world. But the brevity of the story need not stop us from imagining the vast beauty of the original design. The humans were created to live in an earthly paradise and to bring rule over God's creation. This act in the story, this season, could have lasted for eons. Many of our images of creation show us the scene just in brief, though. Creation and fall seem to happen in a second. But by imagining better, we can get a glimpse of what God originally intended. Thomas Cole was a Romantic painter who lived in the first half of the 19th century. He's regarded as one of the greatest landscape painters, and he's the founder of the Hudson River School movement. This school of painting was centered in America, and these painters captured the rugged beauty of the landscape, infusing it with a sense of awe and wonder at God's creation. Never particularly bound to pure representation, Cole often combined elements of the landscape to render the feeling of the scene. 2 of Cole's most famous paintings are his Garden of Eden and Expulsion from the Garden of Eden. Both painted in 1828, these canvases show Cole's profound ability to combine representational landscapes with a strong faith. The Garden of Eden, of course, is one of the central locations in the story of Scripture, but nobody in Scripture ever sees it again after the beginning of the Bible. The word that we have for Eden comes from the Hebrew word pleasure, so we know it's a pleasurable place. Genesis 2 says that it's a place with all kinds of trees that are good to the eye and good for food, and that there's a river that watered it that runs from Eden. Thomas Cole helps us to imagine this garden in a surprising way. Not only is the garden good, the garden is big. There's a vast valley with deer and strange trees. This valley leads up to a lake with islands to explore. A waterfall flows down from craggy foothills, and behind it all, a majestic mountain that rises above the clouds. In the foreground, we see flowers blooming along a cascading stream that flows over rocks and huge shining gems. Near the center of the painting, small, naked humans lift their arms in praise, or perhaps hailing a majestic stag. This is a good place. As Cole wrote about the painting, I've endeavored to conceive a happy spot where all the beautiful objects of nature were concentred. As painted by Cole, however, this garden seems to encompass the whole earth. It looks like an infinite playground in which Adam and Eve are dwarfed by rivers, mountains, trees, and sparkling gems that erupt from the ground. This conveys, first, the magnificent plurality of creation. Creation is a Christmas stocking, so overflowing with treats that we can never get to the bottom of it. The immensity of the landscape is an infinity of delights for this first pair of humans. C.S. Lewis could just as well have been talking about this very point in his Screwtape Letters. Through Screwtape's inverted perspective, this devil complains how God is, quote, a hedonist at heart. The devil's Screwtape elaborates, all those Christian fasts and vigils and stakes and crosses are just a facade, like foam on the seashore. Out there at sea, out in God's sea, there is pleasure and more pleasure. He makes no secret of it. At his right hand are pleasures forevermore. He's filled his world full of pleasures. There are things for humans to do all day long without his minding in the least. Sleeping, washing, eating, drinking, making love, playing, praying, working. Everything has to be twisted before it's any use to us. We fight under cruel disadvantages. So, writes Screwtape. The first idea, that creation is full of infinite delights, suggests a second, that God's prohibition of eating from one tree was perhaps not so unbearable after all. If there's a sea of pleasure to swim in, we have little excuse for wanting to get our feet wet in one forbidden puddle. G.K. Chesterton captures this insight in a different context, in a chapter in Orthodoxy titled The Ethics of Elfland. Chesterton enumerates all he's been taught by some of the wisest of all stories, fairy tales. And one key element in many fairy tales is that a wild and wondrous gift comes with a condition. Chesterton calls this the doctrine of conditional joy. Cinderella can have a magic dress and go to the ball, but she must be back by midnight. To complain too much about the prohibition, Chesterton suggests, shows a certain ingratitude about the nature of the gift that requires it. He writes, if Cinderella says, "How is it that I must leave the ball at 12?" her godmother might answer, "How is it that you are going there till 12?" If some extravagant gift comes with a small requirement, perhaps we'd be better off meditating on the unexpected pleasure rather than the insignificant prohibition. Cole's painting helps us to see the vast beauty of creation, which is meant for humans to enjoy. It also shows that obedience does not need to be a drab affair. It is life and joy itself. Here in Cole's Garden of Eden, we have a picture of a good life and a good world where humans can enjoy all that God has made.